First up, and Biocon is the company in focus, as the company launched multiple drugs in the UK and the US last week. It launched Liraglutide, Biocon for diabetes, and Biolide for chronic weight management in the UK, and Yesintek biosimilar, which is used to treat several diseases, including psoriasis and arthritis. To discuss this and more, we are being joined by Siddharth Mittal, the MD and CEO of Biocon. Siddharth, good afternoon. Thank you for joining in. We'll get to the drug launches as well, but first up, the most recent one that you've launched in the UK, which is Liraglutide. Now, what's the market size here? What is the kind of revenue potential that you're anticipating in the current quarter, which is the fourth quarter of 25, and in FY26? And what is the timeline that you're expecting in the US? Because this weight loss drug has been spoken about quite a bit all through in the recent past.
So thanks and good afternoon. I think this is a very important launch for us in the UK market. You look at the overall UK market opportunity for GLP-1, it's roughly $350 million, which is represented by liraglutide, semaglutide, and tirzepatide. However, the liraglutide on a standalone level is only $20 million in innovator sales. Now, this drug used to be above $100 million in 23 calendar, but because of shortage of product available in the market and some of the patients moving to semaglutide in 24, the opportunity has gone down. But of course, these are numbers which are represented by innovator sales. Now, where I see an opportunity for a company like us is to provide wider access to many patients who could not afford this drug earlier. Today, if you look at GLP-1s, is used to treat diabetes as well as obesity. And in most markets, what reimbursement, whether it's insurance or government reimburses, is for diabetes and not for weight loss. And a large part of sales of GLP-1s is represented by an obesity indication. And today, these are out-of-pocket drugs. And when an affordable version is available, that's where we see a huge opportunity to providing wider access to patients. So it'll be difficult for us to indicate that what that opportunity would be. But nonetheless, I think what is more important is this is the first market where Biocon is bringing such an complex drug. And soon in FY26, we will be launching this drug in Europe. We had recently received approval from European Medicines Agency, and we have started receiving approvals from each of the European nation, and we will be launching this along with our partner Zentiva in FY26.
So, yeah, go ahead.
So I think you also asked a question around US. I think US, of course, is a large market for liraglutide. And overall peptides, it's roughly $1 billion in sales for liraglutide. And we have already filed the drug with FDA. Our drug master file has been cleared by the FDA. And we are expecting to hear back from the FDA in middle of this calendar year. And we expect to launch in the US in the second part of this calendar year.
Second part of this calendar year. The market opportunity is anyone's guess for both your Yesintek and liraglutide itself. But Yesintek likely to go into Europe, liraglutide likely to grow into US sometime the second half of this calendar year itself. When does this start reflecting in your own revenues, for the initial launches that you've done? And from a scalability standpoint, what do you see as a quarterly run rate coming, particularly from, or rather specifically from these two drugs itself? If you could give us some numbers, roughly, if you could, maybe $100, $200 million, what can one expect from a quarterly run rate perspective?
It'll be difficult for me to quantify the numbers, what it would mean for us in FY26. But FY25, of course, we would be supplying the product initial launch quantities, both in the retail and the tender market, and also to our partners Zentiva, which will be reflected in our fourth quarter revenues. It's not going to make a significant difference because, as I mentioned, the liraglutide sales in UK is relatively smaller compared to the European or the US sales. So we will see some impact, but the bigger impact, of course, is going to come in the next fiscal. And next fiscal in the generics business, I expect a growth of mid to high teens. And a large part of that growth is going to be contributed by liraglutide launch in these markets.
All right. And what? Okay, mid-teens out there. I also wanted to touch upon some other launches. You had aflibercept, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. There is bevacizumab as well. But more specifically and most importantly, Aspart as well. Most on the street were expecting, for you to be having exclusivity on Aspart, but that's not happened because Sanofi's recently launched its biosimilar. Is there a similar risk for all your other launches and the above two that we mentioned?
Well, the competition is always going to be there. I mean, let me start with bevacizumab. We've, of course, got the facility cleared with the FDA, and we are hoping to receive an approval from FDA for bevacizumab in the coming months. And we will launch that subsequent to the approval. But there are already 5 or 6 biosimilar bevacizumab already in the US. So we will enter in as a 6th or 7th company. So the pricing is already kind of adjusted with so many biosimilar players available. So I think you'll have to really contextualize that we have to expect competition. We cannot expect that we'll be the only one. Same is the case with Aspart. I mean, as you rightly mentioned, Sanofi did receive an approval for Aspart. Now we have to see what that approval means. I mean, Sanofi, how serious are they about the launch? What's their launch strategy? We have not seen Sanofi, who already has an approval in Europe and who's launched in Europe, to make a big impact in terms of market share. So how strategic is the US market for Sanofi in terms of the diabetes place? Something that they'll be in a better position to comment. But as far as we are concerned, we are ready. We have capacities. We have a product which is already available in many markets, including Europe and Canada. And we are quite confident that over a period of time, this can be an important growth driver. I mean, of course, in biosimilars, the market penetration does take time, unlike in pure play generics. But in the coming years, we definitely think that US would contribute a significant revenue for biosimilar Aspart for us.
Right, Siddharth, I'll get to Yesintek in just a bit, but with all of these launches that are in place, the timelines that are in place, how does all of this add up to your margin profile? What do you expect to end the year with? And what's your outlook for FY26?
I don't expect a fundamental shift in margins in the coming quarters because you do have a positive margin contribution from some of the new launches, but the existing base, if you look at it's a $2 billion top line that we have, the existing base does have pricing pressure or the price erosion that happens. So some of the launches and the contribution from these launches would be offset by the erosion in the existing business. But of course, we might have some key launches which might contribute significantly in a short period of time, especially if there is a limited competition. But again, fundamentally, over a mid to short to mid-term, I would not guide for any significant margin expansion.
All right, we take that point. So just to wrap things up, from an overall company perspective, you gave us a sense of mid to high teens sort of growth in your biosimilars business in the next year. From the overall business perspective, what can we expect? You said that margins may hold at these levels and not see significant expansion given your investments in the business as well. So from a revenue and a revenue perspective from both your businesses, what can we expect on an overall basis?
I think, again, something which is what we have said, that all three of our businesses are very well positioned, whether it's in biosimilars with the new launches coming up, whether it's in generics with the GLP-1 play, or whether it's Syngene with a huge opportunity which is there, which China Plus One, or with the Biosecure Act and an opportunity to play a wider role in the contract manufacturing. I think all three businesses are very well positioned for growth in mid to long term. And from a guidance perspective, I think we have indicated that definitely we can look at overall levels high mid-teens kind of revenue growth in the coming years. And of course, a bit of it could be lumpy. In some quarters, we might see a higher growth in some quarters, depending on the tender outcomes and the deliveries. But strategically, we are very well positioned at a group level to deliver a mid-teen or higher than mid-teen kind of growth.
higher than mid-teens kind of growth. It's optimistic. So the street lights, what you're saying. Siddharth, thank you so much for sparing time and joining us today this afternoon. Wish you good luck for the rest of the year as well. That was the management there of Biocon. The stock seeing a slight recovery from the lows of the day.